going on, you guys? Rasati out here in Singapore, and I gotta say, man, the weather's kind of temperamental. It was like super heavy rain just now, and I think it just decided not to rain anymore. So that was like all of 10 minutes. It went from like monsoon to, I don't know, it's strange. Anyway, um, I am back. Wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the concept of supporting people versus enabling them. And I think that's a really difficult concept to kind of differentiate between because we have two generations that we deal with all the time, right? Our parents' generation and our generation. And their idea of enabling and their idea of supporting usually are one and the same. You all have that experience with the favorite child, right? There's one child that kind of gets away with everything. And a lot of times it's because the parents made mistakes with the first few or whatever. And then by the time they get to the youngest child, they can basically do no wrong and they don't want to, yell at them or beat them or anything because they feel so badly about how things went down with the older kids. And sometimes you have situations where maybe it's not even a child, maybe it's their spouse, maybe the moms, take care of the dad so much so that they don't really have to get up and do anything once they get home, which is a very sweet thing to do. It's very loving and nurturing and all that stuff. But for the most part, that also enables them to not really pick up any slack at the house. So then it leaves room for unnecessary arguments like, how come you never help me out around the house? But then when they do come in, you would rather do things yourself. You've had those situations. I mean, brown kids know brown moms have trouble with this kind of stuff. They'll be like, no one ever helps me around the house. And then when you go to ask them if you can help, they're like, nope. You don't do a good job anyway, so I'm just going to do it myself. So I'm guilty of that too. Baby girl and I go through spats of that. There'll be something, she'll be watching TV and I'll be like, hey, can you go to get this? And I'll be waiting for like 5-10 minutes, no answer, come look out, and she hasn't moved from her spot, mostly because she didn't hear me. And I'll be like, you know what, never mind, I'll do it myself. And then there are those instances when I ask her to do something and she'll wait and wait and wait until I get ready to go do it, and then she wants to rush and beat me to the punch. So it's difficult to differentiate between supporting somebody and enabling them. Let's talk about more serious behaviors, not just helping around the house. I'm talking about maybe encouraging responsibility in kids. Let's talk about that. So honestly, I'm really not good at this because I have a single child, y'all. I'm a single parent with a kid, and I feel really bad for the fact that, she's a single child with a single parent. She doesn't have two parents. She doesn't have siblings. I kind of feel bad because I moved her from that situation into the one we're in now. So for a lot of what I do, I feel pity for her and I kind of do everything myself. But that also means on the flip side, she's not learning to pick up after herself. She's not learning to put things away. So when I do get on her case about putting all the toys away, she kind of flips out. Why? Because I don't do it all the time. I'm not consistent. So this is one of those things where I really need to be consistent. Teaching her responsibility means if I give you a chore, it becomes your chore. I do not pick up the slack. I do not change anything. But I also have OCD to a point because if I ask her to clean up, I don't know what y'all know about eraser shavings. Once you some of the erasers, they leave pieces everywhere, and some of them are pretty good. The dust kind of like collects itself into like a big piece, and then you can throw it away. It's easy. But for those of us who have those old school erasers that kind of break apart into tiny pieces, it ends up all over the floor. And she is an artist, so she ends up drawing all the time. And when she knocks everything onto the floor, she doesn't always look to see if it's messy. It doesn't occur to her for her to look under the table. And she doesn't really see mess the way I see mess. So when I see it, I kind of flip out, and it's not always at the same time in the same place. So she doesn't know that there is a specific way of doing things. She doesn't clean up after herself after one project and then start the next one. She kind of like adds on to the project. It's like an ongoing project forever. So if she has Lego out, suddenly she'll see something on TV and decide she wants to draw. She'll leave the Lego all over the floor and then start drawing. And it's like that. But if I don't hold her accountable because my behaviors act up, my triggers act up as far as mess and being neat and things in their place and stuff, I tend to pick up after her. So then I'm enabling her, not supporting her. When she was having trouble with her friends at school, she would come home and tell me, hey, this is what's going on. How do I handle this? And supporting her means that I understand both sides of the situation. I hear her out and I let her know that the way she's feeling is completely valid and okay. And she needs to figure out what she can do from there. Like, do you act on the feeling that you have? Do you act out of anger? Or do you have to look at it from the point of view that, maybe they don't know all that there is to know, or they don't see all sides of the situation. And then you kind of have to walk them through how this could be better. So for me, supporting means that I hear them out. I understand what they're going through, but I need to teach them the skills or the tools to be able to manage whatever work they have. Enabling means I do it for them. I think the easiest way to explain this would be homework, right? Kids come home, they have questions with homework. Now, my daughter has a very big habit of asking me for help on, I don't know, every other question. Instead of wanting to accomplish for herself, she just doesn't want to get it wrong. So her need to get it right far outweighs the need to prove that she can do it. So in order not to get anything wrong, she asks me for help on pretty much every question because she just wants to make sure she doesn't get it wrong. That doesn't necessarily mean that she has the confidence to get it right in the first place on her own, because I haven't allowed her to try it a couple times and get the thought process correct so that she can feel confident to get it right every time. It's almost like when you practice something, right? You practice until you can no longer get it wrong because it's now muscle memory or it's second nature as far as the thought process or the behavior itself. So lots and lots of examples here, lots and lots of dialogue about what can go wrong and what can go right. But bottom line is there is a very big difference between enabling people and supporting them. A lot of times in a relationship, what you really want is to support your spouse, okay? And a lot of times that looks like, okay, well, they just came home from a very long day of work. I don't want to bother them with my problems. I'm just going to keep quiet about my problems and anticipate what they need and make sure that they're taken care of. But that also teaches them the behavior that you don't have any problems. So that when you suddenly do say, hey, I'm struggling with this, they're like, oh, what is this? New all of a sudden? Like, oh, that's no big deal. But if they knew a little bit every step of the way, they would understand that you have problems just like they do. The way you manage it is different than they do. And at least then they have some kind of context when you actually talk about something more than once, that it's actually a really big problem. We don't do that very often. And I don't know if it's a male thing or a female thing, but generally we don't do that very often about speaking up for our own problems. There are specific personality types that are very good about speaking up about their problems and what they need. And a lot of times it's to control your behavior. But there are some of us who are trying to be very honest and in our own context of things know what's a big deal and don't want to talk about things all the time because we also know that it becomes like an easy pastime that we like to end up complaining about things. But understand that your behavior teaches the other person how to respond to you. If you don't tell people that you have specific issues, maybe you have, you get nervous about people when they stop talking to you. When there's a gap in the conversation or where there's a long pause between communications and stuff, you get nervous because of things that have happened in the past to you. If you don't let those people know that, they won't understand when you suddenly flip out of the blue because they know what they're doing when they're being quiet. You just don't. You're filling in the gaps for yourself. So that's another version of enabling supporting. If you don't let people know where you need support, people don't know that they need to step in. They don't know the difference between your behaviors. So this is actually not one of those concepts that I can actually teach you in one session. I can't cover all the very various aspects of it, but it's something that we really do need to talk about because if you understood how affecting this can be, and the difference between nurturing versus enabling or supporting versus enabling, it can really mean the difference between staying together or breaking up. So if you have any questions, concerns, comments, examples that you need help with trying to, differentiate within whether or not people are enabling your partner, or if you're enabling your partner, if you're actually supporting them, please hit me up by all means. I would love to sit down and have a chat with you and maybe come up with a strategy for how you know better going forward. But in the meantime, you guys stay safe, stay sane, and I will catch you again soon. Bye.